Welcome to episode 130 of What is Civilization Started Over. Unfortunately, there's not really anything super special going on in this episode. I've now planned out everything that's going to happen over the next few episodes, as in during this upcoming era. It's pretty cool stuff. So yeah, let's get into that, I suppose. In the last episode, we saw the immediate after effects of World War V. So we saw a few wars, some conquesty sort of stuff in Canada, where the green, kind of like North Labrador country over here, they fell apart. Over in Asia, or Oceania really, the Papua New Guinea country, like this western one, they got annexed by Eastern Papua New Guinea. We saw the Northern Peruvians install a new fascist government and then get immediately partitioned. And some of the sort of thing that happened probably doesn't matter though. Was it in Africa? I don't know. Anyway, speaking of Africa, we can go there first today because one of the fascist countries in the world, the nation of Angola, will be attacking this guy. Yeah, poor whatever the hell nation you are, like the DRC or Zambia or something. They haven't really done a whole lot, and the capital is very far away. But Angolan forces, with perhaps support from other fascist countries, start to move in towards this major city in the center, west-ish part of the country. Their forces do a pretty good job at dealing with this central bit over here. The Angolans are one of the strongest countries in Africa, but they don't have like a super modernized military, and they're not super great at going through this difficult terrain. So they're going to more focus on the capital city, which leads to some counteroffensive stuff down here in the south, as this front line is dealt with, and some more of the same sort of thing around here. However, the main Angolan military force will push out towards the central part of the country, taking over the major city around here, and getting closer towards the capital city of the country. Kind of worryingly, the Zambian DRC forces will start to invade into Angola. They're not super strong, and it's definitely not the best use of their military, as you know they get close to this major city, but the Angolans are also getting close to their capital city. So yeah, I mean it's not ideal. They've managed to finally surround the capital city, whilst down here in the south, this major city is taken. I believe this is kind of quite deserty though, or quite rainforesty, and the coast is different to the interior, and none of Angola's geography is super amazing though. Anyway, they start to surround the capital city, taking another major city near it, and finally they take the city. Over here in the north, basically everything just collapses, and down here in the south, after a few more months of fighting, the nation will collapse, and the military over here is defeated. And simple as that, the nation is fully annexed into Angola, who becomes a bit stronger and a bit longer. That's an odd-looking Angolan country. They're very, rectangular, but I don't hate it. So, they're fine. They're fine in my books. So I'm going to sneeze, so I'm just going to pause it. I'm done sneezing. Anyway, we can head to our next destination, which is over here in North America, as once again the Canadians will be doing some stuff, and it's actually over here in Alaska, as this nation's entire ethnic structure and sort of cultural thing, it's all been thrown out the window. On paper, this country is a pretty left-wing country. It's like a pretty strong democracy. However, due to the fascist actions and ethnic cleansing from the Vancouvers during the occupation of the territory, which was for a really long time, a lot of the population has been radicalized, and although the government and the political party that takes over is the same as the one from beforehand, it's incredibly unpopular, and the nation kind of devolves into this sort of ethnic tension, anarchy thing, and ultimately, some weird dictator. That's not the right layer. Some weird dictator stuff comes into power, which is surprising that it's not even in Vancouver where this is happening. And Alaska's like, you know what, we could have, or Canada, I mean, they're like, we could have another fascisty American country on our hands. So, with this news, they're going to decide to invade Alaska. Just had some tea, but I'm back, and it's time to invade Alaska. Canadian forces start to invade over here in the south, and pretty quickly get a jump on this major city. Most of the fascist coups or dictatorship stuff is going on in the capital city, which has left the remainder of the country quite confused, what's going on, guys? The capital's over here, so it's not too far away. So Canadian forces managed to reach over to the coast here in the Pacific Ocean, and they set out their navy, which is miles and miles away over here. But they managed to take it across the southern part of the country to arrive over here on the Pacific Ocean, taking over this island and using it as a base to then navally invade into the capital city, because Alaska has had its military infrastructure and sort of defense infrastructure and all that sort of stuff absolutely obliterated during a war. which is World War V, of course. The Vancouverans kind of invested some stuff, but not really around the capital area because they weren't using like the Alaskan cities for economy. It was more the Alaskan resources. So things don't go very well in this war for the Alaskans, and they lose pretty decisively at the start, and I mean at the end as well. The capital city, or the main cities around the capital area, are also taken, and at this point there's not really a whole lot else. So Canadian forces are going to start to spread out, with one taking this city, and then the Navy sets out to take this southern area. These forces connect up. I don't even think there can be a city there, but it was there, and it's gone now. And at that point, there's basically nothing left in Alaska, and they'll finally surrender over. And for the peace deal, we see the Canadians fully annex the Alaskan states, so they once again disappear from existence. They haven't really been able to exist for that long, for a while now, so that's kind of mean, but oh well. You know, they were thinking about fascist stuff, and the communist Canadians are definitely not going to stand for that, so that's kind of commendable. We now have a very large Canadian state, and we can actually use that as a good enough sort of pushing a point to go to power rankings, because at this point I'm kind of indecisive about whether or not the Canadians are stronger than the Americans. I mean, this Alaskan stuff probably won't help them that much, but equally, wait, what? Oh, yeah, I see. I was like, why is it doing that? Yeah. But I don't think the Canadians are stronger than the Americans, but it's very close between like Canada, America, and South Africa are all very, very close in strength, and they could equally all occupy the number 10 position. But apart from that kind of quandary, the rest of the power rankings are the same, and the year is meant to be 2086. All fixed now. Anyway, that's pretty good, and using this as another jumping point, we can go to another country who could very soon be joining the top 10 because of what they're about to do, and it's actually over here to South America, and surprisingly it's not to La Plata, it's to southern Brazil, the People's Republic of Southern Brazil, who will now be invading northern Brazil because of a thing very, very similar to what occurred up in Alaska. Basically, all across the Americas, many people in the higher up command bit knew that it was likely they would lose, and even though like the actual government and many of the top people were just too indoctrinated with their fascist ideology to surrender or give up, apart from the people in La Plata, because they're not stupid, they kept fighting. However, many people fled to other areas, created new identities, and forged all this other stuff, so that once the war was over, they could try and resume and take control, which is exactly what has occurred in Brazil. However, a lot of the international world is going to be trying to help out these guys, and it's going to definitely change some stuff. In theory, the La Platans could probably jump in to try and help the northern Brazilians again, and they could recreate fascist South America. However, the world really, really hates that idea, and they're kind of like La Plata. If you do that, we will burn everything in your country. So southern Brazilian forces, with the aid really of the remainder of the entirety, of the fascist bloc, start an intervention into the northern Brazilian state. However, it's going to be trickier than what I'm showing. Northern Brazilian forces are very militarized, and so the people, so they do a pretty good job at pushing back in this western area, whilst along the coast, these southern Brazilians do have some better chances moving up towards this major city area over here, but they're stopped by it, and the Brazilians are going to continue on to invading into this region of the country. I'm not sure you can see that, but you probably can. There's not a whole lot here, and it's some of the newly gained territory, which is why the Brazilians are having so much success as they start to approach this major city down here. There should definitely be like satellite cities around that area. From here, these southern Brazilians are going to start to push out like around this river bit to try and cut off these two areas, which goes kind of well, but they do seem some losses around here along the coastal bit. However, this odd spearhead-looking thing ends up being quite successful, and it cuts off some supply lines for the forces down here, who were able to save the major city that was being attacked and limit the Brazilian offensive. From here, this front line starts to push out into this city, into this city, into this one, and the northern Brazilians definitely didn't expect that level of success, allowing for a whole load of losses on the northern Brazilian side of things, and also for this weird like bird shape to connect down here and take over this entire area. The Brazilian High Command, which is like, we really don't want to get thrown out of power again, will be even more frantic in their invasion, and they do a pretty good job at pushing down and taking this major city, but it's like probably the poorest major city in this entire country. And they also managed to lose control of the river area, which leads to a whole new coup in the Brazilian state, as the dictator of the country is thrown out, and a new one's thrown in with even more radical policies, which do actually mean better military stuff, as they decide to leave their forces from a lot of this territory in order to defend the actual state. So that was kind of clever. And they managed to take out a lot more, or regain a lot of the cities, like the outer part of the southern Brazilian invasion. They weren't being super well held, and it leads to more losses on their front line as they lose parts around this river, and northern Brazilian forces push in towards this major city over here. Despite that, the southern Brazilians still having a pretty good time moving towards the capital city as they start to approach it pretty quickly. The new dictator is assassinated as well. The assassinator flees from here and over to this other area. They can't really promote a new guy because this place is under a naval blockade. So like a new government starts over here in this major city, which is started by a guy until finally an actual southern Brazilian person assassinates the dictator, and leads to a whole collapse in this territory. Finally, the capital city is also taken, but at this point, there's no one really leading the country. Most of the fascist high command people are too afraid to take power because like 4 presidents have been killed. So ultimately, it leads to very slow and then very, very rapid collapse of the Brazilian state, and eventually it's going to be fully annexed. Anyway, here we are with a very, very orange South America. That is really orange. Yeah, a fully united Brazil once again, and there's only a few more bits, and then they can reform the fascist empire of Brazil, except they're communists this time, so that's exciting. You are very afraid. You should be afraid, La Plata. In fact, you should be very afraid. Anyway, I think we might head over here to Asia, and it's actually going to be going back to the Papua New Guinea country, because these guys just apparently aren't done with invading stuff, which is like, wow, dude. You're mean and fascisty. But they're going to invade today the Solomon Islands, who've never in this entire series got any look in. So really, it's quite nice that they're taking the time out of their day to invade these guys. Apparently they own this island here. I did not know about that. But they use it for naval invasions, taking the capital city and some of the surrounding islands. They take this really cool long one and some of these other squiggly ones. Wow, what a cool country. Bougainville's also got taken at the start. And you know what? That was nice. Those were like a minute of airtime. Solomon Islands, I don't suppose we'll really ever look at you again. But yeah, it was nice having you for that little bit. Good job, man. Anyway, other stuff. We can head up north over here to China, because one country is going to be having an ideological shift in China, which is pretty crazy. And actually, potentially surprisingly, it's this red country over here who looks a bit like some sort of animal. I don't know. See, like, they've got like a face here, like a mouth, and kind of like a dog. Like here's their arm and their leg. I don't know. Anyway, a little bit sidetracked. But what ideology? Well, it's actually going to be communism. So now you have the People's Republic of whatever part of China that is, like in Mongolia or something. So that will probably not be important for the future of the series. This era isn't entirely about communism. Nah, don't worry, it's fine. Anyway, for our final event of the video, we can actually head over here to the Middle East. So that's pretty good. As one country will be deciding to opt out of existence, which is an interesting thing to decide to do for your country, but it will be this pink one over here. Kuwait is very ethnically tied to the demand country, and fascism is apparently fairly popular here. That's not the ideology. The country is at least a little bit conservative. They have pretty flawed democracy as well, and ultimately they decide, you know what, we're gonna join the demand country, except for the people over here who think it's a bad idea and they shouldn't join a communist or fascist dictatorship. So all the clever people over here, actually it's very few people, they're just not ideology or culturally linked because they're too far away, and the nation is partitioned. Alright, and here are the lines of partition, I don't know. So the majority of the country goes to demand, including the capital city and this random island over here, so that's pretty cool, and all the oil wealth. Apart from this little bit right here in Iraq, which goes to the Iraqi country. So there you go, we have some new borders in the Middle East, and demand looks kind of cool, like they're doing some sort of like basketball thing. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Yeah, subscribe too, you should do that. We've actually got a lot more subscribers, like a higher rate recently, so really grateful to everyone who's subscribed. Goodbye.